Hello, everyone. We are now in Paul's second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verses 1 to 21. Um, and what Paul seems to be doing here, at least in the beginning of chapter 2, is he's doing a lot of the same stuff he was doing in chapter 1. He's encouraging Timothy. He tells him to be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus. And he again tells him to share in the suffering with him. And we kind of talked yesterday a bit more about that and what that might mean for you and I. But what Paul really seems to be doing here, at least in the beginning of chapter 2, is he seems to be making a comparison. And he's making this comparison between us, followers of Jesus, followers of Christ, and soldiers. He's kind of saying that we, like soldiers, are enlisted to an army. Of course, we're not talking about some kind of earthly army, but the army of God, way greater responsibility. And he says something interesting here about that as he makes that comparison. He says, no soldier gets entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. So I like this verse because what Paul is doing here, he's using that imagery of a soldier. And he's sort of saying, like, if you think of a soldier, I don't know, perhaps one who was sent to a different country to do war against them, or maybe a soldier in your own home country, tasked with protecting. If you saw a soldier like that, and instead of doing their job of protecting their country, they were just involved in some silly argument with a random person on the street. Or maybe you saw a soldier and you saw them suddenly just drop their weapons and run home because, I don't know, they forgot to do the shopping or something equally as silly. You'd probably feel as though they're not doing their job quite right, or there's something off here. And what Paul seems to be saying is that that's true for us as well. Just like it would be inappropriate for a soldier to, leave their role and be distracted by something silly. It's silly for us to be distracted by things of this world when we are followers of Christ, when we should be focused on the things of God. And it says here in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, something quite relevant. It says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." So what Paul is saying, and what this verse I feel backs up, is just the idea that we need to realize that we are in a war, that we're in a spiritual war, and that there's more going on than we see. When you and I get upset about somebody hurting us, I don't know, being inconsiderate or maybe uncaring, or maybe even about someone who intentionally hurt you, who knowingly did something to upset you. What we need to realize is that there's more going on than that there's powers behind that there's an enemy who's literally trying to get you and trying to get them to do evil. He's trying to tempt you into, I don't know, burst into a fit of rage, or say something upsetting, or be rude, or do something that's hurtful. And so knowing that, being involved in an argument and wasting time arguing over who started this and who started that, that is essentially us getting involved in civilian pursuits, because there's a battle in which we should be fighting. Instead of wasting time in an argument, we should be praying for them. We should be praying that they will be freed from whatever may be influencing them, and that there will be reconciliation. And when you do that, what you're essentially doing is you're fighting the battle of God. You're taking dominion in the spiritual war. And so, Paul seems to try and make Timothy remember that's more important, and that we should stay focused on these things. So why don't you and I remember that the next time someone is getting on our nerves, or we get involved into a silly argument, and that we should be focused on the spiritual war, and not getting entangled in civilian pursuits. hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time. Bye bye.